this what you do?
I mean, this is what we do.
Boom, boom all over the place, boom, boom in my face.
It's the most decadent burger that we have ever made. Starts with 1 pound of Wagyu on there, truffle cheese, gold billionaire bacon on top, big lobster, gold dusted bun. It is the best burger you will ever have.
Me and the burger are having a moment.
All right, enjoy your burger.
Ah, don't do that to me!
Welcome to Cordkillers. It's the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood, but most importantly, what was that? Bryce, tell me a little bit about that hamburger. You can't just show me that hamburger and then not let me eat that hamburger.
So that's a trailer for a new unscripted series on Netflix called Fresh, Fried, and Crispy. You might have noticed the host's voice. That's Dame Drops, who is a popular YouTube food reviewer. That is coming to Netflix June 9. He goes around the country and he tries good foods. There's not a lot to the format, but it's Dame Drops on Netflix.
He's known for his animated
TikTok
reactions.
for millennials. Yeah.
Yeah. He was one of the auto-tune the news guys, or one of those auto-tune places.
Oh, really?
Did a version, did something to his, damn. I think that's him. The damn.
I believe so.
Five Guys one.
Brian, who was that sonorous voice we just heard?
You mean the dulcet tones of one Justin Robert Young? Politics.
It's good to be back, boys.
Oh my goodness. Oh, say it again, but without like any Skype lag or anything. And in fact, like while you do it here, let me. I'm gonna do some harmonizing.
It's good to be in the same studio where we can.
Oh my God, this is magic.
Yeah, it is. I don't know why you worry about that.
Don't you do that.
No,
You took that away from us. We had a magic
It's time for the primary target. What?
just because, yeah. Okay.
Hey, folks, Amazon did it. They announced they intend to acquire MGM Studios for $8.45 billion. Once you exclude debt, that actually values MGM at $6.5 billion. I was a little curious why they're paying so much. That's why they're paying off the debts. Amazon said MGM's catalog of 4,000 films and 17,000 TV shows, because they've been doing this as long as TV's been a thing, would further bolster Amazon Studios. Wall Street Journal sources say Amazon also approached Sony about possibly buying Sony Pictures Entertainment, but Sony is not interested in selling. In fact, Sony CEO Yoshida Kenichiro told the Financial Times, "I think our strategy of creating content as an independent studio while working with various partners will work." So they don't want to get into the game. They just want to sell to the game. Meanwhile, Amazon gets movie and TV studio, a library of valuable intellectual property, including James Bond, Rocky, Silence of the Lambs, Raging Bull. On the TV side, gets Handmaid's Tale, Fargo, The Apprentice, Vikings. The library doesn't immediately benefit Prime Video, as much of it is made or licensed to or for other services like Hulu, Paramount Plus, HBO Max, but it does provide fodder for making new material. So even if they've licensed Fargo out to FX, they can make other derivatives of Fargo. James Bond is one of the properties I mentioned there. It got the most attention in all the headlines. Remember, though, that creative control of the Bond franchise belongs to the Broccoli family, the descendants of original Bond producer Chubby Broccoli. Bond producers Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson said in a statement, quote, "We are committed to continuing to make James Bond films for the worldwide theatrical audience." Everybody was worried Bond's going to go straight to streaming. Amazon actually plays well with theaters, so I don't think that's a big deal, but they wanted to make that clear. MGM also owns the cable and streaming movie service Epix, which happens to be sold as an add-on for Amazon Prime Video, but now they'll own it outright. We talked last week about the need for companies like Amazon to consolidate production, intellectual property, streaming services, and such to order to compete. We saw that with AT&T spinning out Warner Media into a merger with Discovery, Viacom CBS reuniting, Disney acquiring Fox Studios, etc. This will be good for Amazon in lots of ways, not the least of which is advertising. Library content can now be injected from those 17,000 TV shows into IMDb, which will boost ad sales on that outlet. So, Brian, it happened. The lion is going to Bezos land.
So there are two people in my life that I've spent the most amount of time talking about the curious artifacts that came along with growing up during what we affectionately called the monoculture, a time when there were 3, maybe 4 networks, and Thriller was the only album you were going to buy or whatever. And it's you and Justin, and here we sit at the precipice of after the I've heard the word balkanization, which I assume means constant subdividing of things. Now we're seeing this consolidation, as if I don't know, third metaphor incoming. Planetary bodies have collided and now they're recollapsing into whatever's. I don't know how I feel about it. The upside of all of this is that we get big playgrounds again, and we get big people with big ideas who get to play with big playscapes. The downside is we're back. Are we any better off than we were back when it was ABC, CBS, NBC? Like emotionally, but before we get into the specifics, emotionally, how did you feel hearing this news?
I don't know if we're back to anything close to the monoculture yet. I think that we are still at a place where things are shaking out, and we're starting to see the overexpansion and subdivision of, all right, we'll all have our own walled garden. That didn't work. The idea of even like MGM starting Epics and being like, and even that was pre Netflix and Amazon. They were chasing Showtime and HBO and stuff like that they were going to have their own, leverage their library to make something of their own. We're seeing that the new trend now is coming together. But what Tom pointed out is that this is not a everybody try and get on these lifeboats situation. If you're big enough and you're competent enough, and Sony is, they're like, no. Now the bidding war is really going to get hot because Disney's never going to run out of money, Netflix is never going to run out of money, and Amazon's never going to run out of money. So those 3 things are here. What I thought about the most with this, when and as Tom pointed out, the number on that is gigantic and a little misleading because you're paying off the debts. But what I saw there was, how much did they pay for Lord of the Rings? For like J.R.R. Tolkien's
$150 million for the style guide to the Lord of the Rings universe. Not even any of the
Lord of the Rings. I think it was 250.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. 250.
250
Yeah.
just to get the behind the like reference guides for
They
Lord of the
open it up. It's a leaflet that just
1/12
says
of an MGM.
Yes.
It just says a whole bunch of songs, people with pointy ears. I don't know, gold? Question mark?
Yeah, these
Tom
people talk
Bombadil?
funny.
Question mark.
So the idea that they can say, okay, let's get a gigantic basket of well-known IP, and let's think about, sure, James Bond maybe will always be on the big screen, but what about the Q miniseries? What about the M miniseries? Those are something that could go direct to streaming. Rocky, which is now hotter than is at another kind of crossroads. So there's a lot there, and the fact that MGM they were the backbone for a lot of the FX resurgence, including like Fargo, like you were mentioning, and that's I think, to me, it's an IP play, and when you read their press release, that's what it seemed to be about.
Tom, my guess is that this is the story-based equivalent of crypto shenanigans notwithstanding. I don't think Tesla was trying to affect world monetary markets when they parked a whole bunch of money in Bitcoin. I think they just wanted to park a bunch of money in a place that they thought generally was safe. I think that's what Amazon is doing right now, only in story-based IPs.
Mm-hmm. And they've got the money to do it. Yeah. And keep in mind that this is not taking a player out. This is effectively net zero, right? If you see Amazon buy, well, if you see Viacom buy MGM, that's taking a player out. Actually, Disney buying Fox Studios, buying 20th Century Fox, that was taking a player. That was consolidation. Amazon was a new entrant in the game with Amazon Studios. They're just bringing an existing indie in. It would be like Tesla, I don't know, buying Chrysler or something, right? Like it was a new entrant, and then they're bringing an old entrant in.
Or maybe even like I love metaphors. Maybe more like Chrysler buying
Amazon's Tesla
transmission company.
Amazon's Tesla in any metaphor here.
Sure. But it's something
maybe buying a parts supplier,
exactly
like Delphi
that
something.
they can use, right? Mm-hmm. Like a tire company or whatever.
Right. And what I think is going on here a little bit, what I think might end up going on here, because I think you're absolutely right that this is an intellectual property buy front and center.
Yeah.
But I think what Amazon will realize is that Sony's right. You can make a lot of money just selling property to people. Sony's done it forever. How many networks does Sony run? They don't. They don't like to run networks. They couldn't agree to buy Tech TV back in the day because there was an internal struggle over the fact that they're like, but do we want to run networks? So they're fine making the property and cashing in on it. And Amazon may realize, we can do that too. Look at this amount that we're getting for all the stuff that we're selling to other properties. Let's have a unit at MGM continue to do that while we also feed off of this intellectual property, the best stuff, into Prime Video.
I think that there will be no doubt that they will continue to make stuff that if for whatever reason it doesn't want to play on Prime, then it is what it is. But ultimately, what Amazon has that is different than Disney, that is different than Netflix, which these are the main players here, is that they really don't care how many people are watching the shows. They care that you are excited enough for the ability to watch the shows that they are building one more reason why you should never cancel your Prime subscription.
To rephrase it, I don't think this is a metaphor. I think this is a literal sentence. They once said that nobody got fired for buying IBM. No stockholder became upset to find out that their fake Amazon dollars were now owning James Bond.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And so that is the big thing here is now if Handmaid's Tale does another season or do a different version of it in that Gilead universe, and that is exclusive to Amazon and it gets good reviews, then you're like, well, I mean, I don't know. I guess I can get around the 2-day shipping, and I guess, I don't know. I really don't go to Amazon all that much, and I've been shopping local a lot more, but I want to see what happens to Commander Wallace. And like, that's that's their play. And
what?
Yeah.
They used to joke that every TV show was really just selling soap, right?
Yes.
That is the classic. Amazon
Not
literally
a joke,
is selling
literally
you the soap.
something
They'll
I say
deliver
all
it
the
to
time.
your house for you. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
And so the difference is with Disney and Netflix is they really do care that you're here for the shows, and their shows matter. And so that's why I think IP specifically matters more for Amazon than it might even for either of those two. Well, Disney's not.
Let's play in this space a little bit. Netflix really early on had a bank of blue chip movies and television shows through their deal with Stars.
Yeah.
They saw the end of that run coming, and they realized, let's sink hundreds of millions of dollars into originals. Let's make a bold play so we can define our own voice. Let's be the HBO of whatever post HBO is, right?
Yeah.
HBO retreated, joined up like, hey, let's grab all the garbage, syndicated, Friends. Whatever.
Yeah. HBO also got a brain parasite called AT&T.
Correct.
That had them doing all sorts of crazy things that they have very recently shed.
But we talk about being stuck in the mushy middle. If you're thinking about Amazon, they've got a few breakout hits. They are known and beloved for their indie originals. However, it does make a lot of sense if you're going to sink money to put it someplace safe so you can kind of be, again, I don't want to say the mushy middle, but at least a blue chip among equals.
Oh, no. That Netflix bought Miller World to get content.
Yes.
Amazon said, hold my beer. I'm buying an MGM.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think both of them are understanding that, like, Disney was able to microwave a competitor to them because they had the IP.
Because they own that stuff.
Like they can say, hey, buy our service. It's got all the kid movies and blah blah blah, but also a new Star Wars. We made a new Star Wars for you, and you can watch it week by week on our service.
Do you hate that Star Wars and the Star Wars that followed it? Don't worry, now we're making a series. Okay, you kind of like that Star Wars? Great, there are 7 other series coming. We're listening. It's us, Disney.
There's no Bad Batch of Star Wars except for the Bad Batch, available on Disney Plus.
Exactly, and so I think where Amazon is that either they can get into the game like they did by bidding for Lord of the Rings, and then they hope that they can put together a production team that brings some of the magic of those movies into our television screens in the way that Mandalorian did successfully with Star Wars. But they would really like to have that process happen without a gigantic bidding war every single time they want to get into a major IP. Yeah. And so this way they were able to say, whether it was Sony or MGM, give us a big old pile of them and let's go pour through them. They're going to pour through every one of those movies. They're going to remake a crap ton of them. They're going to figure out which ones, if they were smart, they could build their own little universes around them. It just gives them a lot of intellectual property that they can play with, and that's a huge part of the game right now.
Man,
keep this in mind. Think about this one too. What MGM gives them is licensed properties or derivatives, right? MGM doesn't necessarily. In some cases, they own the property, like Fargo, and you can make all the Fargos because they own the Fargo. But in Bond, they are licensing it from the Broccoli family, and there are other properties where they have the right to make the movies, but it's not actually something they own. I think what Netflix is doing, and Miller World was an example, is like, let's buy the properties, let's go and find the actual source material, and they haven't done it since. So I'm curious, did they decide that was too difficult, or are we going to see some interesting acquisitions from Netflix where they buy a J.K. Rowling or something? I don't know.
I also think, before we get off the Bond stuff, this gives them the opportunity to go to the Broccolis, and I don't know if the Broccolis would ever divest themselves creatively from running it, but
you wouldn't think so. But
I mean, would you like a Lucas? Could we give you a Lucas payday?
We've set up a lunch for you with George Lucas so he can explain how many zeros are behind this.
That's so wild, because I went the opposite direction. I was thinking like, okay, here's the deal. A new Bond movie every single year for the next 10 years. We're going to audition a new villain. One of those 10 new villains is going to be masterminded by our people. You always own Bond, but whatever one of those villains turns out to be good, the next Venom, we're going to run off and play with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
you can already do that, though.
Yeah, there's ways that they can make a power sharing agreement, but I think the problem is that nobody could have gone to the Broccolis before and said, we would like to buy the creative interest of James Bond, because there was a studio that owned that distribution rights. And so all you would be doing is just getting yourself in bed with another partner that would be able to muck things up. Now Amazon has eliminated that, and so now they have at least given them the opportunity to say, hey, of course we would always want your input, and we would really want you to be executive producers for life on every single Bond movie that ever comes out, because we can't imagine, with the batting 1,000 stewardship you've had of this franchise, anybody ever having it without you. But how would you like a gigantic amount of money so we can make one every single year, and we can also do a Bond limited series on Amazon Prime?
One last thing to throw out there is, right now, let's say somebody who is not Amazon, now that they've bought the Bond franchise, let's say you and me were to make a awesome superhero that was suspiciously close to everything we love about James Bond, but not technically James Bond. We would be the subjects of a lawsuit. If you also own James Bond, you don't have to worry about that lawsuit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the question is exactly how intractable the Broccolis hold over that franchise is.
All right, so I'm going to put you down as a no to playing the lead of my new series.
Shame's mom.
Shame's
John. John Bames. I'm just gonna put it out there one more time. Keep an eye out, folks, for Netflix to either buy another property direct or buy some kind of production arm. That will tell you what decision they're making. That's going to happen. It's going to happen this year.
It does feel like we're hitting a period of consolidation where everybody is buying everything.
This isn't about the consolidation. This is about what is Netflix going to do? They're going to keep after the source material and try to undercut and be like, we own the coolest properties, or are they going to give in and play Amazon's game?
But I think that's the thing, is that Amazon right now is trying to be Disney. Netflix has still led the way, and granted, those Disney subscribers are getting bigger and bigger and taller. You got to start looking over your shoulder a little bit if you're Netflix. But the way that Netflix has done it is, even with Miller World, that's perfect for them, because most of you people didn't know what Kick-Ass was. You just knew that there was a movie that came out. That you don't quite know what Jupiter's Legacy is. Maybe we're gonna make a big hit thing out of it. They've been inventing their own IP that avoids them getting into those battles. But I see your point, Tom, that especially as they hear the hoofbeats behind them, maybe it's time to peel off a few of those Benjamins and buy something that people have heard of before.
Because what Netflix has always done is think a step ahead of everyone else. When everyone else was like, maybe we should get into this DVD rental game, they were starting a streaming service, and everyone was like, no one's ever going to do a streaming service. And when streaming took off, they started licensing material, and everybody licensed them their material because, like, who cares about licensing material to streaming? Just more money for us. And then Starz caught on and said, we're not licensing this anymore. We're going to make streaming. And Netflix started making originals. Like, they have always been a step ahead. And I feel like buying the source material for intellectual property is trying to be that step ahead.
The Supreme Court Justice William Randolph Hearst once said, don't go where the puck is, go where it's going.
Exactly.
And I believe the puck is going to patreon.com/Cordkillers, where you could support this very show for just $1 an
just
episode.
thought a step ahead.
You can keep yourself loud, live, and independent for our new upcoming originals, including Bame's Jond, an original series about a salt and pepper bearded trio. I guess we're all salt and pepper bearded now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't say us. Anyway, get in now while the action is good. You get your own RSS feed. You keep us loud, live, and independent. Patreon.com/Cordkillers.
All right, folks, let's talk about how to watch. And theaters are back, at least for now. A Quiet Place Part 2 brought in $57 million over the weekend in the U.S. That's movie draft money. That's pretty darn close to the pre-pandemic projections of A Quiet Place Part 2, and ahead of the original movie's $50 million that it brought in 2018. Cruella, which was also available in theaters and for $30 through Disney Plus, is expected to report $26.5 million, an interesting data point for simultaneous release fans. This happens as the U.S. passes 60% of the populace being vaccinated. AMC, Regal, and Cinemark theaters all announced they will no longer require fully vaccinated attendees to wear masks. That's on the honor system. Their employees will remain masked, but they're trying to make it easier for people to come see the movies. So people are going back. You might be wondering, will they keep going back after the novelty of being able to go into a theater wears off? They say they will. My wife's employer, Fandango, surveyed more than 4,000 people who had bought at least one ticket to a movie in the past 12 months. So these are people who went to the movies. We're not talking about you people who stay home all the time and don't have any interest. This is somebody who might go to a theater. 96% said they plan to see multiple movies this summer, and 87% ranked going to the movies as their number one summer plan. 87% of those say the theater experience cannot be duplicated at home because of sound or screen size or, some quality related thing there.
So we have spent 18 months by the numbers speculating on everything from quarterly reports to rental rates to day and date releases, all the number. It's been a hot minute since we've just checked in with how do we feel in our guts where we're at. And it occurs to me that Justin recently moved from the Bay Area to Austin. So you got to see sort of a West Coast blue state mentality to a currently red state Central Texas mentality.
Yep.
Before anyone else talks, I gotta tell you, everyone I see, all the emails I'm getting, it's as though everyone in my world has just decided it's over, business as usual. I'm going.
Yeah. Tom, where you at on this?
Well, I would go and see a movie in my favorite theater right now if it hadn't gone bankrupt and closed down. So I can't go to the ArcLight that's close to me. So my
Are there any rumors
hesitation
on that?
Oh, I mean, come on.
There was the head of a Midwest movie chain made some remarks in the earnings report of like, nobody's going to let that property sit around for long. Wink, wink. So I don't know.
So
We'll see.
maybe, yeah.
Okay, fine.
meantime,
I'm buying
though-
the ArcLight now. It's out there. I've said
James
be
Bond
called
buys the
J-
ArcLight.
Bond,
the Schwoodlight.
Bames Jond.
Fames Jond.
My hesitation in going to a movie theater, though, is based on having to go to a Cinemark that's not very well reviewed that I've never been to before. It has nothing to do with COVID.
Yeah, I did an interview on politics about 2 or 3 months, I'd guess, into COVID with our friends at Ice Cream Social that are in Las Vegas. And at that time, our conversation revolved around, okay, well, Vegas will definitely lead the charge in safety because they are there to make you comfortable and make you not think about your troubles. And so the way that they will do that is by leading the way in terms of preparation. And they certainly put a lot of investment into things to make people feel better. What I did not anticipate was COVID being as long and as traumatic as it was, to the point where now any relief is good. Everybody and specifically when, people have gotten vaccinated. I know there's many people that even after vaccination don't want to return to normal life for varying different reasons, both realistic and non-realistic. But I totally get it. I think that people are just ready to bust loose, and that is regardless. Like Brian said, that I've been in California, now I'm in Texas. Now, granted, I am in the cool blue center of the very red state of Texas, but there is, I think, a palpable nature for folks who are vaccinated to say, cool, did it. You want to know what? All the variant talk that we were getting a couple weeks ago, let me know when that starts happening with people who are vaccinated. Other than that, I'm going to get whatever little sip of life that I can get right now. I'm going to chug this life jug until somebody knocks it out of my hand, and that's that involves going to the movies, and it does not surprise me that this was a very good weekend for that.
Real quick, Bryce, will you make a note that my daughters should never hear the words "chug my life jug" from Justin Robert Young again?
They've already heard it from Fortnite, so.
Yeah,
good
no,
point.
that's
Good point.
this
Number
is
one
my
victory
favorite.
royale.
It's a context thing. I get it. Yeah. But it does seem like the world was back to watching movies ahead of the United States in a lot of regions, but the U.S. wasn't ready to release a lot of the movies until they could release them in the U.S. where they make a majority of their money, or at least a big chunk of it. And so in the end, this is good for the world movie going experience, because you will now see more of these movies continue to be released as long as everything holds, as long as, like you said, we don't have something unexpected crop up again.
Yeah.
It looks like we're going to be back to normal release schedules by the end of this year. By the end of this year on Cordkillers, we'll be talking about so what is the window going to coalesce? Is it 30 days? Is it 45? But that's where the conversation's going to be.
I'll tell you what we should have, instead of a summer movie draft or a winter movie draft, we should have a when will the next movie draft be?
we should all
We all
put
place
in
our bets. Yeah.
Because I feel right now, all things remaining as they are, that a winter movie draft is possible.
Oh,
I think
100%,
likely,
100%. Yeah.
That should be something we could do. Yeah.
I mean, we'll have to use pesos instead of American dollars.
I think if it weren't for the fact that doing a summer draft would have been a jinx that I think even our audience would have reacted viscerally to, we probably could have done one.
There would have been a protest. Everybody would have put in for a movie that was already out for 5 years or something.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone does Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I tried Jurassic Park.
Right. All right, let's talk about what to watch and Under Surveillance.
Like real estate, it's all about location. Under surveillance.
J.J. Abrams took questions on the 10th anniversary of the release of Super 8, and I'm sure he answered some questions about Super 8, but none of those seem to be making headlines. He did mention a Portal movie is still in the works, a script is currently being written, and it is, quote, finally on the rails. But he also answered a question about the rise of Skywalker from Collider. The question was about whether the final 3 movies would have benefited from having a plan from the start, instead of just handing it over to a new director each time. Abrams said, quote, you just never really know, but having a plan, I have learned, in some cases the hard way, is the most critical thing, because otherwise you don't know what you are setting up. You don't know what to emphasize, because if you don't know the inevitable of the story, you're just as good as your last sequence or effect or joke or whatever. But you want to be leading to something inevitable.
There is a great author, a great nonfiction author by the name of Lawrence Wright. He's written a bunch of great books about very serious topics. He's got one coming out about the COVID experience with a lot of stories and reporting from inside the federal government. But what he does best as a nonfiction writer is talk about bureaucracies, big bureaucracies, and how often during a point of crisis, it is almost impossible to stop the wrong decision. It's a miracle to mitigate the wrong decision from happening. It is impossible to actually turn the boat around and avoid the major problem. And it's very realistic for these things to happen. And God, I'm none of us are in those rooms. But when J.J. Abrams is saying in public, yeah, would have been nice if there could be a little bit of foresight and maybe too many cooks in the kitchen, and this person wants that person wants the other. Like, boy, it just gives you a sense of how big Star Wars is for Disney.
Allow me to surprisingly take the counterpoint on this, which is a lot moved very, very fast after Disney acquired the Star Wars universe. And I'm thankful as a fan that a lot moved fast. And where we were at with the first J.J. Abrams directed movie in the Star Wars universe was, in general, a place that I was happy to see and wanted to know where it went. Now, if the question is, should everybody agree with some core principles? Yes, 100%. It was really kind of messed up that you had this weird war of directors and different visions and all those things. However, I don't know, as a counterpoint, there was a project we shot a couple of weeks ago that we brought in people from all over the continent, and we needed to shoot about 4 minutes of footage, and we had 15 pages of pre-written dialogue. Mm-hmm. That's more planned than I think we needed. And I'm very thankful that everybody, when they showed up, we had a discussion and we're like, how much of this plan do we want to stick to? Is there maybe just a few things we need to do that we can fit into the size of box that we have? So by being agile, I think we did a much better job. Which is not to say that's how everybody should run multi-billion-dollar franchises.
I think that was my point. Is
right.
That's impossible. There's always going to be somebody in those Lawrence Wright stories that is jumping up and down and screaming, "We need to be agile here. We need to be agile. Can't you see? Here are charts and graphs about exactly how our lack of agility is going to be terrible." And there's 7 other people at the table saying, seems kind of extreme. Let's meet in the middle and kind of do nothing.
My impression is that that was going on. I have no idea if this is true or not, but my impression is that was going on at Disney or at Lucas actually, and the response was like, absolutely. So you are now required to be agile. We have these benchmarks for determining if you are being agile, and one of them is you can't tell the next director what to do. That keeps us agile. So follow these 5 bullet points for being agile, and that'll make sure you're agile.
Yeah, and I think ultimately the the gift that Marvel has is Kevin Feige. There is
Right.
one person who is the Kim Jong Il of that universe, and he's the supreme leader. And what
I mean, is he Kim Il Sung or Kim? Never mind.
All right.
Well, I mean, if we really want to go, yeah,
He's definitely not Kim Jong Un. I mean, I think
it's
we all
not
agree.
Un, no. So I mean, like, there is the ability for him to say, for one person to say, no, we can't do that. Like, and so if it's like, all right, I want to eliminate these characters, or I want to retcon this backstory because I think it's stupid, then no, you can't. Figure out another thing to do that works with these pieces that are already on the table. And ultimately, look, that trilogy is a mess, and I think even the people that were involved in it kind of
That's the
admit it.
significant part of this story is J.J. Abrams saying something even as veiled as this in public.
Yeah.
So along with the Kevin Feige allegory, is the fact that it's less that he had a plan, it's more that he had a core unified set of principles, bullet points
Yes.
that were non-negotiable in
Yes.
his head. And it's easy to keep all those when they're in the head of exactly one person. Absent that, you have to write them down and make those core principles apparent to everybody. And it is clear from the Star Wars trilogy that they did not have a set of core principles, given the fact that they were changing the rules every other movie.
And also, JJ is not a writer. He is not a director. He is JJ Abrams, right? To quote Jay-Z, he's not a businessman. He's a business man. Like, and that's, you can't tell him, or like, if you're going to say, okay, well, you don't want to do the second movie. Okay, we're going to give it to this other guy. And he's a new hotshot creative that is commanding a lot of attention, and apparently can work with the people at Lucasfilm, because that's not a slam dunk, as we found out, even with very talented directors. It's, I hate to even just go back into it, because I feel like everything that needs to be said about that new trilogy has kind of been said. But I'm glad that JJ has put some voice to the idea that, you want to know what? Endings are hard, and they get easier if you know where the beginnings are going, and it gets even better when you know where the middles are going to be, so you can kind of plan for something really satisfying and exciting.
Well, let's look forward. Variety and Deadline report that HBO's The Last of Us adaptation has cast Merle Dandridge as Marlene, which is interesting because Dandridge voiced Marlene in the video game. Joel and Ellie got cast by different actors from the video game, Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. Interesting and, not entirely impossible thing. It's happened a few times. It doesn't happen all that often.
It's not impossible, but it's surprising just by its rarity, right? Like, how often do you get to see that, I
think Cortana, they had cast somebody else, and then that person fell out, and then went back to the video game version of Cortana for that, apparently. So that's the only other example that was mentioned in this Verge article, and it's the only one I can think of.
There was a project I was looking at where there was a voice actor, and the question was like, well, do you want the cartoon, the animated version of you to look like your voice? And that person said, my preference is that it would. And then, it's like, well, will you sign this piece of paper saying your likeness, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, that would be more fun for me. And so the more of that we get, the easier it is to get to this, where it's like
from one to the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, also, Disney did a bunch of this with Mandalorian, right? Where characters that came out of the cartoon series that were voiced, they let them play the roles in the
Not all
live
of them.
action thing. Not all of them, but some of them.
Yep.
I think in a world where we are, let's get back to IP. Why is IP valuable? Because you think of a thing you knew.
IP freely.
Yes. You think of a thing you knew, and
See
then
more butts.
you say, how am I the only one actually doing your show?
Keep us on rails. Come on.
Like you feel good about this thing that happened, right? And that's what's valuable about it. And
Yeah.
when we're looking at that, what that means now, if you're just gonna cast another actress that, like, what is value over replacement actress, right? And it's like, for her, it's like, no, can you do better? Maybe. Do you know all the fans will be happy and you'll immediately get cred with your core audience? And she'll probably do a really good job. Just cast, if it makes sense, cast them.
If the budget fits and availability is there, why not? You should.
Plus, also, translations from any video game to a movie is such a dicey proposition. It so rarely works out. Essentially, everybody has a talent for angering the fan base that made the thing important to begin with. So it's like, if you have the opportunity to take somebody who is talented and good and beloved and from the original, then by all means,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Amazon's going to start streaming stage shows from the National Theatre in the UK and Ireland June 11th. The shows are Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Fleabag, the theater stage performance, not the TV show. It's the one she performed at Wyndham's Theatre in the West End. Danny Boyle's staging of Frankenstein, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Johnny Lee Miller, along with Hamlet, also starring Cumberbatch, and Ian McKellen on stage starring Patrick Stewart. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, Ian McKellen as Ian McKellen, playing parts made famous by Ian McKellen. But we're getting theater streaming to Amazon. It feels very PBS.
That's not my world, but I definitely recognize that it's like, as you mentioned, Justin, we're entering a phase where, whether justified or unjustified, people are suddenly going to have hot takes on whether or not they're ready to go outside. And some number of those people are going to be people who traditionally loved, past tense, going to the theater and being there for live events, but maybe for whatever reason, whether it's immunocompromisation or just getting used to being out in public or whatever, are not ready to do so. Oh boy, what a market this is now.
Yeah, I think for fans, obviously that's going to be a benefit. For the creators, it shows you how hot the market for content is.
Yeah.
Like theatrical performances, unless they're live, tend to not play well on television. There's a reason why it's for PBS. It's for the very refined connoisseur of this kind of thing. So of course I want to see the opera, no matter where it is, I just want to watch it. The excitement here is that forever actors have longed for theatrical performance because it feels more pure and it gives them credibility. That's really what acting is, not this stop and start movie and television nonsense. But if you've got a fancy director and you've got Benedict Cumberbatch in your play, or you've already or you've already optioned your play into a successful television show on the same streaming service, then now is the time that you can double dip. And guess what? Instead of it just being a DVD that no one's going to care about, you can now get another paycheck from Papa Bezos.
A few other notes here. Netflix's Cobra Kai bringing back villain Terry Silver, played by Thomas Ian Griffith, for season 4. If you don't recall, Silver is a character from Karate Kid Part 3. The Tribeca Film Festival will close with a documentary produced by Dave Chappelle about a rural Ohio town in the early days of the pandemic. Showtime has cast Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Travis Kalanick in its series about Uber. A trailer is out for The Tomorrow War, starring Chris Pratt, coming to Prime Video on July 2nd. And Boss Baby Family Business will release in theaters and on paid versions of Peacock July 2nd. It's their first simultaneous release for Peacock. Universal did a simultaneous release with Trolls World Tour as a rental, video on demand, but they didn't have it on Peacock because there was no Peacock yet.
I'm shocked at the...
That was pre-cock.
It was.
I'm shocked at the confusion that I'm feeling because when I think of a documentary about the early days of the pandemic, I'm just like, too soon. Why? No. What? No. And then I hear produced by Dave Chappelle, and I'm like, yes, please. 5 of them, go.
Yeah, I believe this is where, number one, if people have not seen Dave Chappelle's Block Party, I would presume that this is kind of a spiritual successor to that. That was about one event, a live concert film. This, I would guess, is spread out over a few things, but I gotta wonder, because one of the performances that were on those shows that he was doing in his rural, small Ohio town was a one Louis C.K. I wonder whether or not that is going to be part of it, or if it's going to be more.
It doesn't seem to be performance centric. This seems
Okay.
to be about the towns dealing with the lockdown, Black Lives Matter marches, and the kid. Like, it doesn't feel like this is about Chappelle. It's about the town. So it may not even touch on that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly was doing a lot of stuff with cameras throughout the pandemic, and that stuff didn't necessarily live anywhere immediately. So who knows?
I really thought Brian was going to be confused how Boss Baby can still be babies. Like,
they're
no,
bosses.
sorry. Parent of 3 children. Literally the only person on the panel who could say, yes, they always are bosses, even when they're babies.
but they're still babies. How do they?
They
didn't
stay
grow up?
babies forever. They get
Okay.
married, and then they make even more babies. It's math.
Got it. All right. Thank you for explaining that. Now I get it. Let's talk about what we've had our eyes on. Justin, what have you been watching?
A YouTube series
What?
called Hug the Sun.
SUN.
SUN. This is made by a new YouTube channel called Grouse House, but you will recognize much of the talent from the videos of the Auntie Donna sketch comedy group, but presumably from the now freed tapes of the late 80s, early 90s. This is a religious themed children's program, but
no.
the religion is the sun cult of Oxtos. And so there is a lot that is going on. There is a lot of the same kind of humor. If you like Auntie Donna, if you like a Big Ol' House of Fun or anything that they've done in the past, you will like it. It's a lot of very subversive humor. And all I'll say is that the most recent episode of the Shadowland reveals that Oxtos's greatest enemy is the Shadow Man, which is played expertly by Auntie Donna member Mark Bonanno.
Oh my God.
And it's here I think we actually have a shot of
Oh my God. It is Mark.
but there's a little dance. It's very funny. They're very funny, and I hope everybody watches it. Hug the Sun on Grouse House on YouTube.
Hey man, big shouts out to friend of the show, Andrew Main, who tricked all of us into playing just one game of a little game called Demio on the Oculus Quest VR. We played on the show where we spent most of our time arguing about whether to go left or go right, but the game itself remains just hypnotically wonderful. It's tactical turn-based strategy in a VR environment with a virtual game board right in front of you. It's highly addictive, a lot of fun, and best of all, it forces you to talk to other people, which is a good thing.
My pick, I've got to give a little context and setup to. My wife's a fan of BTS, the K-pop band, and so as part of that, she has been watching their show Run BTS, which is kind of genius. It's basically Terrace House for BTS fans. You get to see inside the lives of the BTS boys. Not so much the reality show portion of it though. They do a lot of challenges and games, and I have come to appreciate the band less through their music and more through watching this and saying, man, Big Hit Entertainment really knows how to produce a show. Like, this is fun. I don't even care who these guys are. It's fun to watch these 7 guys interact. And in addition to that, they do a regular travelogue where in between tours, the 7 members of the band go somewhere like Norway or Hawaii or New Zealand. And they show them traveling and doing touristy things and eating at different places. It's like No Reservations hosted by BTS. And the Bon Voyage, it's called Bon Voyage. Bon Voyage is really good. We're headed to Hawaii, and we've been watching the trip to Hawaii and getting like good tips out of it, and it's enjoyable to watch. If you're not into reality shows, you're not going to like it. If you're not into K-pop, you might like it anyway. If you're into sort of reality TV, because it's very well done.
God bless the content factory. That
Right?
is BTS. What
IMDb has it at 9.5. Actually, the series is 9.7, I think, out of 10.
I mean,
It's
are
unreal.
you going to defy the BTS hive?
No.
The Army. BTS Army.
BTS Army. I apologize.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Oh,
Army.
you called
I
them
apologize.
drones. Oh,
apologize.
gross. Justin Robert
It's okay.
Young.
It's okay. You're not Army. It's all right.
They
They're
are
very forgiving.
They are Legion.
All right, Bryce, what should we be on the lookout for?
Hey, we got an email from Dave who wrote, as a follow-up to your recent viewing of Walter Houston in The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, which we talked about on Spoilerin Time 2 weeks ago, I think, I'd like to suggest viewing 2 other Walter Houston movies. First would be Yankee Doodle Dandy, perhaps just in time for the 4th of July, where Houston plays the father to James Cagney's George M. Cohen.
Okay.
The second would be the truly bonkers movie Gabriel Over the White House, where he plays the president of the United States, who, after a near-death experience, becomes, quote, a changed man. The movie is totally nuts. You will enjoy it tremendously. Thank you, David. Hey, old movies, sometimes tough to find on streaming. Yankee Doodle Dandy, you can rent on most of all the VOD sites. You can buy or rent it for a couple of dollars. Gabriel Over the White House is not streaming anywhere. It's not on YouTube, not that I could find. Maybe if you can find a physical copy of it, a VHS or a DVD, God forbid. Maybe if you have a hot tip on how you can watch these, email us, cordkillers@gmail.com. Thank you.
If you've got a copy, please
If you
let us know.
you can please help a brother out.
I don't know if you noticed, but I just saw on the Wikipedia, like I made just a pulling a name out of nowhere. I said William Randolph Hearst, and it says it was the movie received the financial backing and creative input of businessman William Randolph Hearst,
Yep.
noted Supreme Court justice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and puck placer.
William
Yes.
Randolph Hearst is not a Supreme Court justice.
Oh, you know, Gabriel Over the White House is an MGM film.
Yes, it is.
Soon to be on Amazon.
Who knows?
Yep.
If you've got something we should talk about here, cordkillers@gmail.com. Thank you.
Brian, tell me something good.
Hey, man, everything that you're seeing is all made possible by our friends over at doghousesystems.com. Head on over to doghousesystems.com/rogue. Use promo code ROGUE at checkout. Get a free SSD. Justin, do you have anything you would like to promote?
Yeah. I would like to promote that I have a lot of love for all the veterans and those who have died for our country. A salute on this Memorial Day to everybody who has made this great country what it is.
So we picked the wrong week.
Let's move on to the front lines then. After rolling out the feature to smart TVs, Netflix has begun testing its Play Something button on Android devices globally. Users in the test will see a pop-up showing off the new button to play an algorithmic selection based on your history and choices. The option will be available on both adult and child profiles on Android.
You know what's funny is I would guess like they would want to know how they did, but they'll know based on whether or not you keep on watching, right?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
all they want. But their recommendation system has famously been a sticking point and a sore subject for them, and so they're like, "Wait a minute, y'all are into like TikTok, like random stuff? Like
You just want us to shove it in front of you? Okay.
we could just shove our best guess in front of your face."
Philo TV is raising its price from $20 a month to $25 a month starting on June 8th for new subscribers. Current subscribers will stay at $20 as long as they remain customers, though anybody paying $25 a month gets a year of DVR storage instead of 30 days. Also, nice try, Tom. But
There was no typo in what Brian read, and I don't know what he's talking about. Philo TV, late to the game on raising the price. They're the one that's like very not sports. They used to be just like AMC, Viacom, CBS stuff. It was how you used to watch Doctor Who before it shifted over to BritBox, etc. Sling TV has a new interface out for the Amazon Fire TV and coming to Roku later this summer. The menu moves to the side and reduces the options. There are also larger thumbnails on the homepage, a pared down guide, and the ability to record to the DVR right from the grid without having to click through. You can also sort by channel name and add favorites to the left side. Recent channels makes it easier to switch back and forth if you're flipping between, say, games or something. And each now includes previous searches and autofill. So, new stuff.
how wild that a new feature is fewer choices. Like, that's something that my brain hadn't been really primed for.
That's kind of the art of user interface, right? Is like you don't want a ton of choices. You want the right choices, and you don't want it to feel too. It's like the difference between something that's like an on rails experience versus an open world experience.
Because you get lost and you lose the thread of the main story.
Yeah.
They used to, basically what they got rid of is they used to have options for TV, movies, and sports in the left side. Now those are just in the home, in rows on the home. You don't need a left side menu selection for those.
Yeah. I'm glad. I think that people should be updating their user interfaces a lot and often for televisions.
I will make the comment that Sling, which had this innovative new interface since it was native to the digital format because it was one of the first to launch, has now slowly made itself work like every other app out there.
Yeah.
Fox's paid streaming service, Fox Nation, will start including episodes of Fox News' primetime lineup starting on June 2nd. Episodes of Tucker Carlson Tonight, Hannity, and the Ingram Angle will show up on Fox Nation at 5 a.m. the day after airing. Fox Nation costs $5.99 a month or $54.99 a year. This sounds like an esoteric kind of sideways thing. It is maybe the last thread keeping my parents attached to any version of cable whatsoever. Mom has discovered that through Discovery Plus, she can get all the HGTV that she wants. Like there will always be a messy house that is made nice. Just dad can't let go of his cable news and
no live stream. Live stream of the thing.
But even this time delay might be too much for him, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, but also like with Sling, you can already DVR the shows. I would really just like to end this segment making the Tucker Carlson face.
You can hear it on the audio-only version.
It's really
amazing.
weird. You can.
Yeah. Army of the Dead has tied The Midnight Sky to become Netflix's 9th most watched movie of all time with 72 million views in its first 4 weeks. Extraction is Netflix's most watched movie with 99 million. And Netflix has approved a prequel to Army of the Dead directed by Matthias Schweighöfer, who played Ludwig Dieter in The Army of the Dead.
When you say prequel, I mean, are we just going back to Night of the Living Dead?
No, Army of the Dead is the Zack Snyder thing. It has nothing to do with
that's not in the
so they're not dead people walking around?
Well, it is a thing.
Yes,
you want to know what it really is like?
It's
really like End Teller.
Oh, really?
So it's basically End Teller, which was a web series that Teller,
Short
Penn
film,
and Teller made, where he was surviving a zombie apocalypse in Las Vegas. Imagine that, but it's directed by Zack Snyder, and they're trying to pull a heist before the government nukes the city.
Okay.
But anyway,
because
and they need a safe cracker who's
I
Ludwig Dieter, who's who you will follow in the prequel.
I would love to believe that the entire pitch for the heist is the bones are their money.
All right.
Also the worms.
When are we getting that new season? When's the next Sorry to Bother?
T-Vision announced that
I think
the
you should
Friends
leave.
reunion on HBO Max was watched by 29% of U.S. streaming households on May 27th. That's close to Wonder Woman 1984, which reached 32% of households, and more than Mortal Kombat, which reached 16%. T-Vision only measures TV viewing, not mobile, laptop, or desktop. So just because, like, the TVs with things in them, that's a lot, though.
There's really just such a brilliant story to be told about the lifespan of gigantic shows that it's going to take you a while to get to the end of the binging with. Familiar, like Office and Friends are probably the two heavyweights there. But I think also that's a special cast. They were actually kind of like close while they were doing the thing. They all negotiated together famously so they could get these kind of record paydays. They never splintered and negotiated against each other. So I think that they had a pretty unique story to tell, on top of the fact that show has bafflingly only gotten bigger and bigger and bigger since it went off the air.
Well, folks, we want to hear from you. This is usually the part of the show where we read your feedback. So keep it coming. Feedback email is cordkillers@gmail.com. Write us a note, even if it's just to say, hey, I want you to read this in the feedback section called Dispatches from the Front. Love Cordkillers viewer.
You know what? This might be a good time to sort of like pull the kimono open just a little bit and say, like, when you recommend a thing or a story, those get read, and if we haven't heard the story, they get put in the doc. And if Bryce picks his favorite of the recommendations, but what we really crave for this moment is some kind of thoughtful experience about, like, how cord cutting has affected you personally, or what your preferences are, or heaven forbid, you ask us a question. All of those are good things.
Yeah. If you write us more than a couple paragraphs, we will read it and quite often respond to it, but it may not make it in the show because that's just a lot to read. And we try to summarize things. So if you really want to make it in the show, that's another thing to keep in mind as well. But send it whatever length you want. Just know that ahead of time. Justin, here's another chance for you to tell us what you've got going on.
Is this a thing? Is this like a bit?
No, this is where politely
this is the end of the show where we say, Justin Robbie Young, thank you for joining us on Cordkillers.
But you already sort of famously had nothing to plug, so yeah.
Was the first one a bit?
No, it became a bit. Well,
it was bit-like.
I mean, it was bit-like because there is a thing that I know that eventually you'll want to plug, but you can't. It's the wrong week, is what I was saying. That was the joke I was going for.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing forthcoming. Certainly nothing that you would want to follow the Dog and Pony Show audio Twitter account for. That is the production company that I head, and there's no project.
Alternately, you probably don't want to go and look at twitter.com/Shwood, SHWOOD, and see a sign up for email list for who knows what. Who knows what? What emails might come?
Hey, folks, let's show our appreciation to Justin for being on this show. Go to Twitter and @DogPonyAudio. Just let him know that you're thankful that he was on the show, and you have now followed that account.
Sure. Everybody do that, and maybe at some point, the Dog and Pony Show will have a new thing coming out that everybody who's specifically listening to this show will like. I would hope that's the goal. It's a
Dog Pony Audio. Just
Dog
3 words.
Pony Audio. Dog Pony Audio.
Words.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing. Oh, I gotta change. I gotta change where it is. It says it's from Oakland, California, but it's not.
Oh, no, it is not. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. Send us that email. And we're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack, which is also carried on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We will not talk to you next week because we're taking the week off, just to be contrary and not taking it off this week. But we'll be back on June, whatever that is, 2 weeks from now. See you then.
Hey, Tom Merritt.
Yes, Brian Brushwood.
Know who I love even more than my own children?
Your other children?
No, not my wife. I know what you're saying. I love our $5 patrons. These are the people that keep us loud, live, and independent. Thank you so much, $5 patrons.
You know what? I love them more than not life itself, because then I'd be dead and I couldn't appreciate them, but really, really, really close. And I'm so thankful that they are here to make this show happen.
Thank you so much to all of our $5 a month patrons. You guys are wizards. You're champions.
Thank you, everyone.
You're heroes.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.